It's time for Prove All Things, a Bible discussion program on the Word of God. A panel of preachers will deal with your questions and comments. Prove all things, hold fast that which is good, abstain from all appearance of evil, and the very God of peace sanctify you wholly. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you again today. We appreciate your being here with us. And I'm not sure I'm on camera, but anyway, there we are.
Well, you were
Just over
not,
at the
not
side.
centered.
Now I'm centered. Well, Engineer Dave over here has got, I think, everything fixed. We had some folks at Google changing things out on us in YouTube. So the programming was off last week and we couldn't get on. But we are back tonight and we're looking forward to talking with you. As you perhaps know, this is Prove All Things, and we are here for Bible discussion. In fact, if we don't have Bible discussion, we don't have much to talk about, except maybe our kids and grandkids. But that's not that interesting. If you're accustomed to us, you know that we are on two platforms. We're on YouTube, and we'll follow the chat conversation on YouTube. Look for a button. Usually it's a red button on my computer. You can punch that, and then you can type out anything you want us to know or say or hear. And if it's related to the Bible or religion, we'll be glad to talk about it. We're also on Facebook, and everybody and his dog knows how to comment on Facebook. In fact, a lot of dogs and cats do seem to comment quite a bit on Facebook. The program's brought to you by the High School Road Church of Christ, which is located at 3103 North High School Road in Indianapolis, Indiana. You can also phone us if you want to, which I don't understand why more people don't do, because you can talk more. I can't type near as much as I can talk. 317-257-3000 is the number. And we're looking forward to talking to you. My wife dared me to wear my new suspenders tonight, so I am here fully attired. And I'm sure you all appreciate the effort. My guests on the program tonight, over here on my right, is Don McLean from down in lovely Arkansas. How are you, Don?
I'm hot.
Ah,
Yeah, hot down in Little Rock, brother.
In Little Rock, Arkansas. We're going to talk to him more over here on my left. Alan McKee is with us.
Hello, John. How are you this evening?
I am fine, doing just fine. Don, we're gonna sort of turn the first 15, 20 minutes of the program over to him. He has just come back. He and Keith Sharp just recently went to Kenya, teaching a bunch of preachers. And how do you pronounce Tanzania?
Well, I guess the appropriate pronunciation is Tanzania.
Okay.
That's the way the natives pronounce it, Tanzania.
What do those guys know? But
I don't know what they're kind of weird over there when it comes to their English. They were influenced by the British.
Ah, I see.
That's where that comes from.
All righty. Well, tell us about your trip. I know you've got some stuff ginned up for us, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, I tell you, brother, it was very encouraging. Brother Sharp has gone over there 21 times now, and you've gone with him before, and so you're a little familiar with the work that he's done.
Sure.
And, in 2012, Keith had gone to Kenya, and he studied with 4 men who were at that time members of a school run by the World Bible School organization. And
Hold on. Engineer Davis. Turn him up. He needs to go up.
turn me up.
All right, you're going up. You are up now.
All right, can you hear me?
I could hear you before, but Engineer Dave was fussing.
Oh, well, he's
4
he's
men.
got fuss about it.
4 men, World Bible School.
4 men who were associated with World Bible School. They were going to school in a school there that was run by them. they were convinced that institutionalism was wrong and that the school itself was not something they should be associated with. So they took a stand for the truth and they got expelled from the school. Um, in the process of being expelled from the school, they began to take a stand for the truth where they lived. And when Brother Sharp and I went, we left here on July the 2nd, and we arrived in Kisumu, Kenya on July the 4th. After 2.5 hour drive to Kisii, we assembled with these men plus 14 more whom they have persuaded that institutionalism is wrong and who they have converted to the truth. And now there are 18 non-institutional preachers in southwest Kenya. So Brother Sharp's efforts have really brought forth a pretty good harvest. And so we had classes there with those men, just did our best to ground them a little more. Brother Sharp taught lessons on the importance of spiritual authority for things to do. And I through the book of Ephesians, began in Ephesians 1 and verse 1 and went all the way through the book. And just emphasize the church that Jesus built and just emphasize that God's glory is to be manifested through the church and not through human institutions or anything else that we can come up with.
I wish I'd been there. I have questions about Ephesians.
Yeah.
Jeff Asher was here with us preaching on John. I was so grateful. I had questions about John. I got some about Ephesians, but go ahead. Go ahead.
We taught for 4 days there, and the contacts, of course, that we made, I think, are just going to be very fruitful in the future. Those men are very devoted to the truth, and my outlook for Kenya is great. You know what has happened in Nigeria.
Yes.
Back,
Oh, yes.
I guess what in the 70s, Lowell Blassingame. Did you ever know Lowell Blassingame?
I met him. Yes.
You met him. Lowell and Albert Dads had gone over there. I don't know how many times, but I had the privilege of knowing Lowell very well. Going fishing with Lowell is an experience. It's rather encouraging to be with a man like Lowell Blassingame, but he was just made a great impression on me. But anyway, him and Albert have gone over to Nigeria many times, and now the church in Nigeria is just exploding. Hopefully, the same thing can happen in Kenya.
Amen.
And also Tanzania, after we finished there in Kisii, Kenya, we traveled down to Tanzania, to Moshi. Met a man there that had been corresponding with Keith Sharp for 15 years. His name is Timothy Masawi. And he's a 36-year-old lawyer. He has been worshiping with an institutional group there in Moshi. That particular congregation was actually under the control of the World Bible School organization and the institutional brethren. Timothy had been studying with the preacher at that congregation. And 2 months ago, that preacher quit his job. He was a teacher at the mission school there in Moshi. He quit his job and left the non-institutional church there and established a non-institutional group in Moshi. 50 people came out of the congregation, the institutional work there, the liberals, and he came out of there with 50 people. And now there's a sound work in Moshi, Tanzania. And I tell you what, I've never met a man more devoted to personal evangelism than Wilson Matai. That guy is something else. And so just from studying with him personally and meeting with him and Timothy Masawi, I got great expectations for the church in Tanzania too.
What do you think? Are you thinking about going back over there?
I am thinking about going back over there, but it'll be a couple of years. As you know, Bruce Reed's going to be having a debate next summer, so I've kind of committed to helping him in that effort. That'll be next July, so I'm certainly not going back before then, so it'll probably be in 2021 before I try to go back. But I am wanting to go back. Yes, sir.
That sounds interesting. I appreciate your telling us. Did you get some of those pictures on Engineer Dave while he was talking?
Yeah.
I went too
Well,
fast.
see, I don't get to see that until later.
You're shortening 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Tell us more about it. Yeah, he's been showing these pictures, and I don't get to see them until later. I'll see them off of his computer. But,
Who's
You know,
Simeon.
that was just a quick overview. Me and Keith, let me just kind of back up. Me and Keith Sharp went, and we were accompanied by his daughter Michelle, and also one of the elders' wives at Prince Street there here in Conway, Arkansas.
yeah.
Pamela Lawrence went with Michelle, and so they taught the women. That is very important too. Those women need to be taught. There's not much structure there when it comes to grounding and family-oriented teachings and just biblical teaching in general. There's not much there. So the women needed to be taught. So Michelle and Pam focused on that. We flew out of Little Rock, Arkansas on July the 2nd and went through Atlanta where we stopped and listened to you. And I think it was Wayne Greason that was on with you that night. Wayne. And we were watching you there from the Atlanta airport.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
We flew from there to London and met up with Manny Ebong. You know Manny, don't you?
I know Manny. I wish so much. I know Manny would like to come to the States.
Oh, yes. Well, he's relocating to London.
I had heard that he going to actually get it done. He's been trying for years.
He's hoping to. He's there now, and he met us at the airport. I'm glad he did, because that airport's kind of confusing. At least it was to me. The airport gets that big, it's kind of, when you have to get on the subway to go from one side and ride a subway for 10 minutes going 80 miles an hour to get to another. That's
It's a big airport.
But Manny Ebong, we had a 6-hour layover in London, and so we got to visit with Manny quite a bit. And that was encouraging too. He did tell us a little bit about the work in London, and he's meeting with a small group there, and just hoping that he stay there. He's having some trouble getting permission from the government to stay.
Is he having trouble with the British government or with the government of Nigeria?
Yeah, I think it's British government, but they let anybody else in Europe. I don't know.
Well, at High School Road, we've got at least 3 Nigerians that are now worshiping with us. So I would love for me to be able to come. For one thing, he's a terrific preacher. I love hearing him preach. So
I just got a notice pop up. My MacBook is running low on juice, and I don't have my charger with me here at the office. So if I cut out on you here in a minute, then Dave will have to send me another message. I can hook up on my iMac behind me if you'll connect with me if I get cut off. Apologize for that.
well, you gotta plug that thing in once or twice, a day.
I had it plugged in this morning, but apparently it wasn't charged when I got here, so
Oh,
I haven't
well.
used much.
Well,
So-
what were you asking, Dave? You were asked something.
I wanted to know, he's got a thing here where he went to Sagway, the preacher for the church, and his wife Florence are our guest.
Yes,
Sagway, he said.
Simeon Sagway.
Simeon.
He is the preacher for the church in Kiori, Kenya, which is just a little north of Kisii. Simeon is one of the 4 men who came out of the World Bible School, and so he and 4 other fellows. There's Kennedy Odongo, George Amalo, and Timothy Oyambo. Those 4 men came out of the mission school there, and they just realized, that institutionalism is just not good.
Yeah.
It doesn't work to begin with. It's controlling. Anytime we try to explain this to them as well. Anytime that you have money changing hands, and you have all the money that is changing hands, they're going to expect something in return. They're going to give you all that money.
Mm-hmm.
To a church building, they're going to be expecting you to do certain things. And if you don't toe the line, your money gets cut off. And they came to realize that. The preacher in Moshi, Wilson, as I said, he worked for the school there and preached in an institutional church. He got fired because he took a stand for the truth. That's what happens.
Yeah.
When you take a stand. So get blackballed and all that stuff. You're familiar with all that.
I've seen that happen a time or two. Yes, it happens from now. Sometimes brethren are not all they should be.
No, they're not. But there are 18 faithful preachers there in Kenya now, and that grew from 4 in 2012 now to 18, and just need to continue to be an encouragement to them.
Well, in the papers over here, they talk about a lot of the violence in Kenya. I take it you didn't see anything like that.
No, I'm thankful. I tell you, the most violent thing I saw was in Nairobi. I was never so thankful in all my life to finally get back to the airport in Nairobi. Traveling on the roads in Nairobi, let's see, what would be the closest comparison? Demolition Derby, I guess would be a
Oh, that.
Yeah, you need bumper cars. Those little cars. With
Yeah.
My good, people there drive insane. I did not see one single road sign in Kenya, not one. They have these big roundabouts in Nairobi, and the way that you get through the roundabout is if you get your nose in there and you push somebody out of the way, you got the right of way.
Yeah, that's the same way here in the U.S. Here in Indianapolis, we got roundabouts. It's about the same.
Yeah, but it's a little different there, brother.
Yeah. I understand.
People there just drive like they're crazy. I don't know. But no road signs, no speed limit. You just do whatever you want to do.
What's this debate about that you and Bruce Reeves are having next summer?
AD 70.
We've talked about that a time or two on this program.
Holger Neubauer. Bruce is going to be debating Holger Neubauer.
Yeah.
July, the exact dates fail me right now, but it's about the second week of July of next year.
Okay.
In Texas.
In Amarillo.
Amarillo, where Kyle Pope is.
My goodness. You couldn't get it closer to Little Rock or back here on this side of the Mississippi somewhere?
We were looking for a place where the AD 70 doctrine was causing a problem, and we were looking down in Alabama. There's a congregation down there that's having some issues, and we were looking at Indianapolis. In fact, we were thinking about coming to Indianapolis. In fact, that was kind of on the radar seriously, but those fell through. So now we're going to Amarillo, and Kyle Pope has invited us to come there. They're having some issues there in central and northern Texas.
All righty. Well, I'll look forward to that. Lord willing, maybe I can. Well, Amarillo's they built that too far from home. It'll never amount to anything. All right. Alan's gone to sleep over here on me. Have we got anybody commenting on the program, Dave?
No. They're telling us they're there and hello.
Oh, hello. We want more than hello. Yeah. All right. Let's go to our phone bank. We'll wait for everybody out there to wake up. We appreciate hearing about this. 2 weeks ago, we started this guy. He's got a long comment. And I put him on right at the tail end of the program. And I stopped him after a little while because we just didn't have, I knew we wouldn't have time to comment on everything he was talking about. So I'm putting him back on. I promised I would. And we'll see if we can pick up where we were.
You probably remember me been calling in yesterday.
Yes.
I was traveling from Mississippi to Chicago.
I got you.
And now I don't have you on radio now because I can't pick you up, but I made sure I kept your number in my cell phone.
Well, great.
So that I could call you back because you were going to address my question. I think you may have called the scripture out.
That's right.
Like Corinthians chapter 10 or something to that nature, but I really didn't make the contextual agreement. So I just said I wanted to call back today that you might address that situation or that question.
Well, Ephesians 4 says there's one body.
Yeah.
I believe there's just one church that belongs to Jesus Christ. I don't believe there's one church with 50 different denominations in it.
Okay.
I believe 1 Corinthians 1 tells me that the Lord is very disappointed that some were saying, I'm of this religion, and I'm following this man, and I'm following this practice, and I'm following another practice. There's just one truth. There's just one way. And obviously, I believe that what I'm teaching is the truth. I'm sure you do too.
Uh-huh.
And so we're going to have to talk about the things that we disagree about to see what's right. But there's only one truth. There's only one church. There's only one gospel. And I don't believe that you've obeyed that gospel yet. And I don't believe you're a part of that church. And I suspect you believe the same thing about me.
Well, I can't necessarily say that that's totally my opinion concerning you because I really don't know totally what you believe. I just heard just the statement that was made. And oftentimes I remember reading where Jesus and the scribes and the Pharisees thinking to trick Jesus or to entrap him because of their, their abilities and their accomplishments as the law.
Okay.
Came to him and said unto him, they said, Lord, which of these are the greatest of the commandments? Knowing that it had already been stated. And Jesus said, well, it's sort of like this, that thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength, which is a complete man in the Hebrew language. And then he said the second is much favorable because it's like unto it. He says that thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And if we were put it in the common vernacular, the next statement would simply say, if you can maintain this here, then it'll take the rest of the commandments in order to maintain this. Or if it'll take the love of God, it'll take loving, it'll take not lying, it'll take not commit adultery, not being covetous, or all of the rest of the things, in order for you to honor me to do this. And so the one thing that I have formulated as far as opinion concerning other Christians, or others who profess to be Christians, is that the one thing I try to do is first love you the way that God has taught me or has commanded me to love you, and to give you the privilege to say who he is in your life and what he's done in your life. So I really can't say that you haven't, or I believe that you haven't obeyed the full truth, or you're not a part of that church, just because I don't know you and I'm not totally certain. I just have to give a little time that I might know those that labor. Is that?
I understand. What and because you're driving through, you don't know much about what I teach or what I believe.
That's correct.
And I keyed in on the word where you described yourself as a Pentecostal yesterday. And so that's where I'm coming from. I know what is usually involved in using that word Pentecostal, and I disagree with that.
Okay. Well, now you have that right concerning what you think you know. Okay? You say you know what is usually involved. And like I told you, I was a member of a Pentecostal organization. But, and things like that, and you know what you think is usually that involved. But, and I know the radio time is not really going to allow us all the time to really address such a situation as this. And so hopefully once I am off of the air, I can get an address. And because I think it's worth all that I say that I believe in, is to get to know who you are and what you say you know or what you say you believe about this man who actually I'm in love with. It's sort of like the relationship between a husband and a wife. If that husband or that wife come home with some different attitude, if the other part of that marriage partner...
Ooh, this is taking too long. I've given him 4.5 minutes. That's all I'm really willing to give. Alan, you hadn't talked any, so let's get you in this. He says he's a Pentecostal. He doesn't know, of course, he doesn't, I'm assuming he doesn't know much about you and me, which is understandable. But given the idea that there's one church and there's one truth, would you assume when someone described themselves as a Pentecostal that they hadn't learned all the truth yet, and they hadn't submitted themselves to it.
Well, what I know about Pentecostal doctrine, I mean, he may mean Pentecostal. Who knows? Maybe Pentecostal, as according to the Acts 2 model, but I doubt it very much. What he's probably suggesting there is that he thinks he has some sort of miraculous gifts in the current day.
Yeah.
And if that's
Well, he would say that is the Acts 2 model, but go ahead.
well, he would say it's the Acts 2 model, but the problem is that those gifts we know were going to disappear. The Bible's very clear that those gifts were going away, and they did go away. And we also then we might ask some questions about what do they feel doctrinally? What do they think it takes for a man to be saved? That's a fairly fundamental question in my mind. What does it take for a man to be saved?
Well, and then also there's two basic groups of people who describe themselves as Pentecostal. One group believes that there are three beings in the Godhead.
Yeah.
The other group thinks there's just one. So which Pentecostal is there?
That's a good question too.
Okay. Uh-oh. Don, I was just turning to you. Have we lost him?
Yeah.
All right.
But you have a question.
Well, wait a minute. He said we can get back to him. What would we have to do to do that?
He may be trying to call you on Skype.
Oh, really?
He may.
Like I would know how to do that.
I know.
He's assuming a lot about me. What? Give me some idea, Dave, and I'll try. Hey,
I'm not allowed on video.
step in front of that
No
camera there. Okay. Should I close this out? Yeah. Wait a minute.
What's that?
No answer call started. 6:32, 6:30, no.
Try that.
What do I do?
Try that. Look to the left and the Don McLean, that little one.
Oh, there we go. This one?
Yeah.
Can I click that? You're talking to.
I know. Sorry.
Is something happening?
Oh, here. Okay, go up there to the top right.
Right.
Top right. Top right. Keep going.
The other right?
That way.
All the way over here?
See that video?
Yeah.
Try that.
Who? Who is that fat man?
It's trying to
Okay.
connect. No.
Says Don isn't online.
Yeah.
Rats.
He may be having problems.
Okay.
But anyway.
Well, rats. I'm sorry we lost him. I was all ready for him to tell us all about it.
We do have a comment on YouTube.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try one more time. Gosh, I sure am glad I don't have to see myself full screen all the time. Okay, Don, we're not getting you. We're gonna listen to this comment and then we'll see if we can reconnect with Don. One of his computers died, so he's trying to get the other one going. Go ahead, sir.
This is kind of going back to what Don was talking about the debate.
Yeah.
This is from Mike on YouTube, and he says, John, is there anything new to report about your repeated challenges to debate John Watson on the issues of the resurrection, judgment, and second coming of Christ?
No, there's nothing new to report. We've offered it. I don't know. I'm kind of curious what Don was talking about. Apparently, they tried to come here to Indianapolis for this debate that he's talking about, which would have been fine. My guess is that there wasn't a church here in Indianapolis that would say they would support Don or support Brother Neubauer. I may be wrong, but I don't think so, because we've tried that before, and there is, for some reason, there's no church that wants to back him in a debate here. I shouldn't say that. I said that may be the problem. I would have been glad to listen to anybody debate. Part of it, of course, could have been at High School Road, but you'd sort of expect the other fellow to have somebody who's willing to commit to say, "Hey, this guy believes what we believe," and that may have been the problem. Maybe there's somebody out there in Amarillo that is willing to say that. But I don't know, and Don isn't here, so I can't answer that question. But no, there has been, in terms of my being involved in a debate. No, there's nobody that has stepped forward. We did offer to. Oops, there's things beeping around here at me.
Try that.
Try what?
What just beeped at you?
I don't know what beeped. I'll try this again.
No, not that.
Not that.
No, on Facebook Messenger.
What? Where's that?
Just, I don't know.
You're a whole lot more confident of your father's.
Right there.
Right here. Oh, right here.
Yes.
Okay.
Now go to Facebook. Right there.
That was Dave's hand passing in front. Don McLean.
There, try that.
Okay, let's see if we got invited you to chat on Skype.
Yes, say open Skype.
Open Skype.
Okay, now accept.
Okay, accept. Don wants to connect. Great. Now you can start chatting.
Updating connection.
Okay, am I supposed to wait?
Do that video in the upper right thing again. Try
Video in the upper
One
right
time.
thing. Hey, there he is. He's back.
He's back.
I tell you, I have, and it's the other side of the room now.
Hallelujah. That's right. Now you got the little view.
Have you listened to us at all while you were gone?
I couldn't get you.
Okay, we had a.
I was working on this and I had my volume down. So
Okay. Welcome back.
thank you.
This is one of those new parts of the program that we're sort of learning about, and now we know how to do that a little bit. We had a question while you were gone. Would you read that again, Dave?
I'll read it.
Go
It
ahead.
says, John, is there anything new to report about your repeated challenges to debate John Watson on the issues of the resurrection, judgment, and second coming of Christ?
My answer was no. There's nothing new. You mentioned that there was a possibility that Holger Neubauer might debate here in Indianapolis. Do you have any idea why that didn't work out?
With me?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know why that didn't work out. I do know that he's debating Bruce Reeves though next July. So
Yes, I know. I don't know what your question was, but I know that I'm pretty sure there isn't a church here in town that would support Brother Neubauer.
yeah,
There are of course two churches here that do accept, or at least the preachers accept, the AD 70 doctrine, but I don't think they would support Brother Neubauer. He has preached at one of them.
Watson wouldn't support Neubauer.
I don't think so. I don't guarantee, and I'm speaking for somebody, but I don't think so. And my guess is you spoke of institutionalism in Kenya.
Right.
And Brother Neubauer has traditionally been on that side of issues, and it may be that these brethren don't want to be associated with that, whereas they do happen to agree on the 70 AD thing.
Yeah. Well, it makes,
I don't know that that's the case.
well, from my observation, it appears to me that typically it's the 70 AD doctrine that's going to bring them together, whether institutional or non-institutional or whatever.
Well, I think that certainly they'll attend. My guess is that at least one of the men here in Indianapolis might attend out there in Amarillo if he can. But it's as far as committing the church to support him. One of the questions I would have had if I was debating him is, well, What about that institutional stuff? Are you going along with that too, or just the 70 AD? But I'm sure Bruce Reeves is beyond that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Everybody says I'm not always nice, but I do have a tendency to ask questions.
Um, we're not above asking those kind of questions either.
I know. Well, and I'm just guessing at it. I'm guessing at
Just
that.
a little nicer. I don't know.
I know. I'm guessing at it. I don't know if that's the case, and of course it doesn't matter. So you're going to have it out in Amarillo.
Yes, it will be in Amarillo.
All right. I hope all goes well. All right. How are we doing out there, Engineer Dave?
We're good.
We're good. Okay. And I don't mean to be snarky about that, but it is curious. But no, there has been no development here. Why these things are coming up everywhere now. Wonder why that's here. Okay, let's go back to our phone bank. I'd like to hear from you folks live. If you have questions of Don about that work over there, I'm sure he'll do his best to answer it. Yes. We have a question. Go ahead.
All right, this is from Larry on Facebook. He says, question, one always sees elders appointed with deacons. I have never seen anything different in Canada or the U.S. Is it unscriptural to have deacons appointed where there are no elders, or elders appointed without deacons?
Okay. Alan, you hadn't taught a lot. I'm giving you another chance. Can you have deacons and no elders?
I think you can, but not in a formal office.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I think there's a leadership structure that's defined in the scripture,
Yes.
with elders in charge and then deacons fulfilling their role. I think there were places where there were not elders, but they had deacons. For example, I'm thinking of the early church there they had apostles, though. There in the early church in Acts, the 6th chapter? And and there are some other cases where Paul mentions people serving the church, but perhaps not in an official role.
Okay.
So yeah, you can have. I think there are, that's all deacon means. We know is it means servant. And so if you're a servant, then there's a qualification for the servant as defined there in 1 Timothy and in Titus.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always heard it taught that has to be under the control of the elders, but I am not sure I have a scripture that I can point to back that up.
All right. Don, I'm sure, has all the information about that. Can there be deacons and no elders?
You better believe it. I got all the information. It is true that deacon, we normally would think of it as an office. 1 Timothy chapter 3, when you go there, you have the qualifications of the elders. And following that, you have the qualifications of the deacons. The office of a deacon, which is subservient to, enrolled to the elders, and is subject to the elders. But certainly a local church, if it doesn't have elders, I hope you have men who are willing to serve and do things that a deacon would do. Kind of like in Acts chapter 6. You've got to have people who take care of things and do things that need to be done. And Alan is exactly right. I mean, the word deacon simply means servant. Although in 1 Timothy chapter 3, beginning in verse 8, you have the office of a deacon, and there is a distinction that needs to be made between the office of a deacon and just a general servant like the women in Romans chapter 16.
All righty. To me, it's one of those questions that you have to answer. Yes, there can be deacons with no elders. These gentlemen have supplied some information that isn't in 1 Timothy 3, bless their hearts, There's nothing in 1 Timothy 3 that says that the deacons are under the elders per se, without it, any more than any other member of the church is under the elders. But the problem, as I can see it, is that there's such a tendency when you have deacons and no elders. There's such a tendency for those deacons to begin, in fact, moving into the area that an elder should hold. In other words, expanding their role in the church and becoming authoritative. And there's nothing in the scripture that indicates that they were necessarily authoritative in directing the church. They were not the shepherds of the church. They functioned in some capacity. For instance, in Acts 6 that Alan mentioned, they were providing for the welfare of the needy widows. We mentioned, in churches there's a lot of roles like that. In other words, let's make sure the building is kept clean. Let's make sure the grounds, the landscaping is done. Let's make sure that the old folks in the church are cared for. And so a lot of those, and we need a treasurer. We need somebody to sort of make sure the money's being deposited. And but none of those are authoritative roles per se, or decision-making roles. And there's a tremendous tendency when if you suggest something like that these men would step into the role of elders without being qualified to be elders. And so I would think it would be something you'd want to be very careful about, and perhaps leave some of those roles a little less structured, a little less official, as Don's mentioned, the terms used there in 1 Timothy 3. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? But yeah, there's no reason why it wouldn't be scriptural for a church to say, Brother Smith, we're going to you meet the qualifications of 1 Timothy 3. We need somebody to take care of some of those things I mentioned, and we'd like for you to undertake that. And you'd be responsible to the church as a whole in that case. Yes, sir.
Larry writes back, says, thanks for the clarifying input. We also have another question from a listener, and they write, let's see, asking about women preaching in the assembly. Can a woman preach to an assembly with men in attendance?
All righty, Don, can a woman preach to an assembly with men in attendance? You mentioned Michelle Sharp and the sister from Conway.
Yeah, Pam Lawrence. They didn't in attendance. No, the preaching, that is declaring the word of God publicly. However, the principle is that a woman cannot have or exert authority over a man. One of the questions that we got in Kenya was this: if a woman is teaching a woman's class, can an elder go into that class and listen to what the woman is teaching? My answer was sure he can. His responsibility is to make sure that all things are being taught according to the scripture. The elder has the responsibility to oversee all of that. Now, is she exerting authority over him while she's teaching that class of women while he's listening? I don't think so. That's the principle, though. She cannot be in a position of authority. Now, if a woman is standing up before a mixed audience, men and women, and she's preaching the gospel, what is she doing? Is she not in a position of authority in that setting? I would think so.
Seems like it to me.
That seems like it to me, too. So that'd be a violation of 1 Timothy chapter 2 and also 1 Corinthians chapter 14.
Alan?
Went the same place where Don went. I went to 1 Corinthians 14:34. Very clearly, let your women keep silent in the churches. It is not permitted for them to speak, but to be in subjection, as the law also says. And they, if we are gathered in an assembly of the church, they are to be silent. Uh, and I don't see any qualification about that other than that when we sing, we all sing. So obviously that kind of behavior is excluded. But to be in a role of preaching or teaching, I believe is prohibited to them.
All righty. 1 Corinthians 14, one of the things I'd like for you to notice about it. 1 Corinthians 14 is describing a particular assembly. For instance, I could go through the whole chapter, but I'm going to start with just a couple of verses. First, verse 23 says, if the whole church be come together into one place. Then again in verse 26, how is it then, brethren, when ye come together? That is, the whole church come together, as it's indicated other place. And then 35, he says, it is a shame for women to speak in the church. And 34, keep silence in the churches. So in each of these, it's talking about the situation where the whole church has come together and they're to be silent. 1 Timothy is not necessarily talking about the same situation, but is a far more general command about that Don is quoted. Is far more general command about the attitude of women toward men, and that they shouldn't be put in a position over the man, which is sort of a loose translation or a loose paraphrase of what that wording is in Timothy. But no, to give you a one word answer, can the women speak in the assembly? No, they're not to be preaching in the assembly. 1 Corinthians 14, 1 Timothy. I'm going to think of the passage in a minute, and I can't right now. I'm thinking it's chapter 2, but I've been wrong before so many times. 1 Timothy 2 and verse 11, roughly 11 and 12. I suffer not a woman to teach, and then this is King James, nor usurp authority over the man, and that's what Don is referring to. By the way, that phrase usurp authority over the man is one word in Greek, and so it's simply the idea of dominate. You do have, this isn't a blanket prohibition of women teaching men, because you have several Bible examples of women teaching men. Priscilla apparently taught Apollos, or at least assisted in it. Other passages talk about women teaching, but Priscilla, when she taught Apollos, did so in concert with her husband and did it privately. They didn't assault him in a public assembly, or they didn't try to dominate him in a public assembly. They taught him privately. So, no, I don't think a woman can teach in the public assembly of the church. And usually we make some distinction when we have a class. For instance, maybe we could have the class in your home. Can a woman speak in her own home? Yes, but she ought not to be trying to dominate the men there. That's it. This isn't a situation where the whole church come together. And can a woman speak in a school? Because we got a lot of women that are teachers, even professors, and they ought to be careful about that domination of men, even in that circumstance. And usually in many churches there's a class arrangement where you have an adult class and a young teenage class and so forth. And that again is not the whole church gathered together in one place. That is a different situation and would fall under the teaching of 1 Timothy 2, and 1 Corinthians 14 wouldn't apply. But, I'm out of breath. And I'd be glad to hear from you more about that. If you have other questions about it, we'll do our best to answer them. There's really only 2 passages that I know of that speak directly to the subject. Engineer Dave, how are we doing over there? We're great. Okay, can you I think of some other passages that talk about women teaching. For instance, 1 Corinthians 11 indicated that there were women that prophesied. And so here you have a woman prophesying, but she would be specifically in 1 Corinthians 14 forbidden to do that in the public assembly of the church. But they did prophesy. Philip's daughters, she had 4 daughters or 3 daughters, 4 I think, who were prophetesses, and so these women were inspired of God. They would definitely be teaching in some respect, and as you say, if they're prophesying on the street or they're prophesying in their home, there might well be men there listening to what they say.
That's why they had to wear the covering.
Well, sort of, yes.
That's one of the reasons why.
Let's not bring that up. Who wants to discuss that today? Well, it would take a little while. We've only got 9 minutes left in the program tonight, but yes, that does enter into 1 Corinthians 11. What?
I don't know. I'm not trying. No,
You're gonna be causing trouble, right?
no, I'm not. I'm gonna push on with this subject, and that is to say, what happened, or no, it's like you said, it's in the church. I'm sorry. When a woman teaches her children, and perhaps her children are baptized, but she still is in a matter of authority because she's a mother.
No, okay. Brethren carry on about that quite a bit. Being baptized doesn't turn a child into a man.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the Bible that says that. Here you've got sometimes a 10-year-old, 11-year-old child. He didn't suddenly become a man by being baptized. He is a Christian. He is a servant of God now. But he's still going to have to obey his mother. And he's still going to have to obey his teacher. And when he goes to school, they definitely are going to have authority over him. He's not set free. Galatians 4 talks about that the child, as long as he's a child, let's see, that the heir, as long as he's a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed to the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. Now, the Lord's using that as an illustration of our relationship with the law, but he's using a principle of sort of common sense and using that as an illustration of our relationship to the law. Guys, I'm talking too much.
I'll talk. Hey,
Wait a minute.
We've got
You're talking to me.
Well, but it's the same thing. But it's a comment here on Facebook, and it's
Okay.
from a new person, and we're happy to have you on here. This is from Melody, and she says, "What about women serving in non-speaking and non-authoritative roles, such as passing communion, the collection plate, or operating audiovisual equipment?"
Okay. Don knows all about that.
I sure do.
What about that?
I've seen a push of wanting to get women more involved, waiting on the Lord's table, those kinds of things. Anytime you put a woman up in front of a group, and she may be serving the Lord's Supper, why would we want to push that envelope? That'd be my first question. Why are we wanting to push that envelope? Why do we want to push that women lead prayer and lead in singing and those kinds of? Why would we want to do that? If you've got a man leading singing, he's not. I know he's not. Or if you got a woman leading singing, she's not preaching, but she is leading. She is in a position of authority. She's in a position of authority. Why would we want that? When we look at 1 Corinthians 14:34 and 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 11 and 12, it's instructing us that we need to keep those boundary markers in place. Now listen, that does not just denigrate the woman at all. Do we not realize that a woman in her role is the most important person on the planet? John, who was that? Glenn Campbell that sang that song about the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. I mean, you can't think of a more important role than being a mother, a godly mother. Being a woman is very important in terms of that's an important place for them to take. And when trying to jump over and do other things, that's just causing all kinds of problems in the Lord's church. Why are we wanting to push that on? That'd be my first question.
What's your second question? Alan, what do you think about this?
I agree with Don. I feel like that is going in a place where we don't want to go. That
You do realize neither one of you is answering the question directly. Nothing personal, but
well,
neither one of you
John,
is answering.
John,
the
if you've
question.
got the dandy answer, you just enlighten us. But the real problem is, I think John's got a good point there. That there is a humility with us being Christians, and part of that humility is that we're not going to try and push ourselves into places where we don't belong. In that, just as you talked earlier about deacons who wanted to push themselves into the role of being an elder, and that would be wrong. Why is it wrong? Because that fellow's not qualified. He's not qualified to be an elder. He's a deacon. He's not qualified. Well, the woman, why is she not going to lead singing? Because she's not qualified. And she may be an excellent singer. She may have a beautiful voice. She may have more music knowledge than I do, but she's still not qualified. Because the Bible sets qualifications for who will have the leadership role in the church.
Okay. This lady, I don't think was talking about leading singing or whatever, making announcements.
But she's talking about some of these other roles. Now, if she wanted to work the AV system, I got no problem with that. I have no problem with someone up in the booth running the AV, running the projector, or running the computers up there that we've got. Our system. We got that system up there. We got somebody up there. They're not in a leadership role that I can see, and I don't have a problem with that. We got ladies in the church who sit in another part of the AV area, and they translate. They translate from the English into the Spanish, and there's a woman speaking. Is she taking a leadership role? No, she's just translating, and I don't have a problem with that either. So, but yeah, I think when Don's right, if you're putting them up in front of the congregation, you're now elevating them in a certain way, to a certain sense, that is past where they are qualified to be.
Okay. We appreciate that. May I say that passing the emblems in church is not necessarily a official church function that's covered anywhere in the Bible. It's just the traditional way we do it here in the good old U.S. of A. I can remember other churches that I've been to didn't pass it at all. The church got up and marched around and took it off the table. But anyway, I know we're running it. We're having a good time here. But I do think the comments from these gentlemen is accurate in the sense that it just doesn't look right, which is what they're saying. And there may be some areas where it's permissible, but sometimes it just doesn't look right, doesn't seem to fit. And Don asked a good question when he started. He said, why? Why are we trying to do this? What's the point? It's not going to bring you, passing the emblems in church doesn't bring you any closer to the Lord. So, what are you giggling about over there, Engineer Dave? Listen, Don, tell us where you're preaching and where you are down there and when.
Oh, I'm here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And West 65th Street Church of Christ in Little Rock, Arkansas. Been here for 21 years.
Oh my goodness. Have you got your cemetery plots?
I'm sorry, 19 years. I got my math a little fuzzy there, but 19 years.
Okay.
I had that 21 from Keith earlier stuck in my head. We do have a radio program every weekday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
All righty.
4 o'clock your time and Eastern time.
Can you get that on YouTube or something?
2 o'clock your time. Yes. Our YouTube page, Don McLean 11. You can find me on Facebook. We live stream on Facebook as well, just like you do. And that's the best way to get us, really.
Would they look up your name, Don McLean?
Yes, look up my name, Don McLean. You can also look up our website, w65stchurchofchrist.com.
All righty. This program's brought to you by the High School Road Church of Christ in Indianapolis, 3103 North High School Road. We're going to be meeting tomorrow night at 7:30. And we'll be meeting again on the Lord's Day at 9:30 for my Bible class, 10:30 for worship, and again at 6 in the evening for worship. And Engineer Dave is staring daggers at me. Well, sort of.
Waving you off.
Yes, we appreciate you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. The report about Kenya was very good. I appreciate hearing about it. Don, thank you. Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening to you.